Hello, we are Nerds of the West. Thank you so much for being here. We are talking about all our thoughts on Libertalia, the Winds of Galecrest, or as I accidentally put up on all our social media for 2 days in a row, the Wings of Galecrest.
Did you really?
Yeah, no one put it out. So I saved it on the final few days. This is a game sent to us from Stonemaier Games, so thank you very much to them, but we will be giving it a full, honest review. There is nothing that we will hold back, even if people send us games. We try and be honest here. We, the ones being honest, I am Tom. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a Kai.
All hands, raise the colours.
Sean.
I'm here to kick bubblegum and chew ass. I'm all out of ass.
This is a game all about getting as much money as you can on 3 voyages across the seas and the skies. This is a revised edition of a game that came out in 2012, I believe. The original Libertalia was a bit darker, and this game is a bit lighter. Look at all that there, nice and pretty. So let's start off, as I like to do, with art. The first thing that grabs your eye is the game box. I love this game box. I want to chuck it into Photoshop or Lightroom and have a look at the magic circle or the rule of what's it called? You can check not the rule of thirds, but the spiral that you can see.
Yeah.
Because your eye tracks in that way, and I think this box does that.
Designed.
Like you've got this massive L up here. You come down to this down here, and you start seeing
Even the L
everything as you go.
itself does that. It sort of leads your eye in that way.
Beautifully designed box art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is very nice.
Agree.
Yeah.
Oh, the colours, very pretty.
Yeah.
I prefer a bit more contrast in this game. Is actually the one criticism that I had. If we move this out of the way, so some of this art looks a little bit washed to me. It's very bright and colourful, but some of the art design choices could have been a little bit more. Just either putting lines on stuff. But that's personal opinion.
I mean, it's very much going for that like kind of watercolour-y kind of look, isn't it?
Yeah, which
absolutely.
is the total opposite to the previous version.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while you guys are talking, I'll grab out a couple of cards.
Look, just to add on to what you said, I love the art. I
Yeah?
think, for me, this is better than the first one because I like, just how clear it is. Yes, you're probably right, it is a little bit washed out. Sometimes maybe some things can get a little lost, but not in the stuff that's really important. Like you can read the writing all easy. It's really just the artwork, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's what they were going for.
The
That's what it
iconography
is.
all makes sense. But that's what you get with a game with 3 icons.
Yeah, but it's just trying not to overcomplicate it.
There's a side-by-side
So
comparison.
I would say that the card layout is definitely better in this version. The iconography, the way it's clearly separated down the bottom here with a nice, obvious, pink versus this kind of less obvious layout. But I prefer this kind of grittier art style, I suppose, for pirates because, pirates are ugly and mean and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Versus the more friendly, anthropomorphized animal thing going on. Nothing wrong with it, just a preference.
Yeah.
For me, I prefer that slightly more realistic, grittier art style.
Yeah, I mean, and also these ones, like the old cards, have a little quip or a little bit of flavour text to them, which none of these don't because they've tried to simplify.
Small. Not only one not mattering, but 2, that is so small I can
it's
barely
small.
see it.
Yeah, I mean, I just read one then and it was quite funny, but
It's cute.
Definitely a full-on flip to the original, but
Yep.
I still think I prefer it.
Component quality is fantastic. Stonemaier
Yeah.
Games, I don't think have ever really failed on any component quality stuff. The cards all feel nice. I personally prefer slightly thicker cards, but these are perfectly fine considering that there's 40 of them and 6 decks.
But
Yeah.
they are that nice like linen finish, which I
the
like,
texture.
rather than that glossy flat finish. So I think these tend to hold up better.
Yeah.
But once we get past the superficial stuff, it's important, but it is ultimately superficial when talking about gameplay. Or a game, gameplay is the most important thing, and the upgrades they have made to this game are fantastic in terms of gameplay. This is a game where you are just choosing the best card to possibly either get you the ability that you want or to get you the first pick that you want. And tiebreakers are the major difference between this new version and the old version, and this new reputation system is so good.
Yeah.
Just like I think Sean shot up onto the top of the reputation system in the first round and stayed there most of the game, and I am fairly sure that's what won you the game.
Yeah, it was definitely nice to know that I've had that assurance of being always at the top, I guess, and knowing the cards that I'm going to play will put me there. Well, in the original, if you're unsure how that works, if you're playing out the same value card, is each card has a number on it, which has a priority to it. So, you're sort of just guessing because you don't really know. Like, you look at it and you go, okay, cool, this is the 17 card. I'm pretty sure everybody else is going to play 17 because it's, a good card. I've got a priority of 4 out of 7 or 6, how many people are playing.
Yeah.
I think that's mine is all right. It's tough. It's really tough to
Yeah,
know who.
tough to
But then
tell.
also if I don't want you to go ahead of me, I don't know if your deck has a priority above 4.
Yeah,
Right? There's no way
there's
to
already
tell.
so much RNG in the fact that you're picking out cards at random for each round.
Yeah.
You don't know what people have necessarily kept from previous rounds to track numbers.
Yeah.
So having this be a guaranteed, if we play the same important card, I'm going to beat you,
Yeah.
is
But also
huge for games of this.
leading up, when we're looking at all our cards before we even start the voyage, I see you're ahead of me and I'm like, man, you're ahead of me on points. I need to knock you down the reputation track so I can make sure that I'm winning
Yeah.
any ties.
It actually, in a game that's about play and counterplay of someone being ahead of you or choosing loot ahead of you, you need those options to force that kind of interaction.
Yeah, I like that it brings that mechanic into the player's control rather than having the
You got the
cards.
green deck, suck it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And while the decks were in the previous version theoretically balanced overall among card
30
reputations, not knowing which decks, if you're only playing with 4 of the 6 decks, maybe it doesn't work out balanced, I don't know. Whereas bringing this into the player's control makes it something obvious, so you know from the get-go, I'm playing the highest possible card and I'm highest on the reputation. I know I'm going to be picking loot first.
Yeah.
Is nice to know. Although there are still things that could stop it, like was it the brute that
killing people.
might knock me off. Maybe it's dangerous to know that you were definitely going to be first. But I also like that it makes it something you control and that you can plan for. I'm going to increase my reputation this turn so that next turn I can make use of that high reputation. So it adds just a little bit more to think about without overcomplicating a nice sort of simple game, simple to, mechanically game.
Yeah.
So I like that it brings it into your control and adds just a little extra thing to think about. Rather than it being a chance thing.
When there's already so many variables in both the setup that you've got, because we played the calm side of the board today, there is the stormy side with some extra interaction and extra stuff going on with the loot that you take, but there's so much variation in what loot's going to come out and what order you're going to get it, what cards are coming out and what order you're going to play on, but having that be a known thing and all your decisions can be based on that makes the game feel so much more mind gamey and so much more like your choices actually matter.
Yep.
Yep. So Stormy Side looks like it changes the effects of the loot tokens that you get a little bit.
Yep. So it makes it a little bit more complicated and a little bit more interaction-y, I think.
Yeah.
As well, or maybe not even interaction as much as just keeping an eye on what other people have got a little bit more.
I'm very keen to play this more, and I'm very keen to play with the Stormy side and a combination of the sides, because you can take there's cards that you can lay over the top of this to change up how you want each kind of loot to interact. Because I personally feel, because it hurt me a little bit, and I need to play it more to be sure, that the reputation tracker, the person who is starting in first and second, needs to start with less money. I think the difference between 12 money and 7 money is not enough for the fact that you're choosing first a lot of the time.
It became very, very important to, like you were just saying, I guess, especially during some of those rounds during that game, is like being able to go first and take the first pick of loot, depending on what's there, was so important that actually being high on the reputation track was worth more than, like you said, 3, 4, 5 coins, which would have been the difference between the lowest on the reputation track. So, although, it's something you can definitely manipulate and you can take control of. Like, usually...
If the cards don't come out that way to give you the opportunity to go...
then you, I guess you kind of can't do anything there.
Yeah, I think that's something that would hash itself out in more playthroughs. Maybe if they were like reduced one more, it might balance things out a little bit, but I think it's kind of hard to say with only one playthrough.
It's a very hard one to judge.
Also, we only went through half the deck or so.
Yeah,
Suppose there are different cards in here that really change that up and make reputation
18
more
out of
play.
the 40 cards is not a huge amount to judge on.
Yeah, that's it.
not to say don't listen to our opinions, but it is definitely a game with this many variables that you need to get a few plays under your belt. And I think it's a game that's going to be better after a few plays under your belt.
Yeah,
There was definitely a few rounds where we went, oh, I think this is the best play, and then in hindsight went, actually, that's very, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you're changing up the cards every single time, every round is going to be different. We had a lot of really cool interactions in the way that it was like, we had the bosun, who was get points for having lower numbered cards, but we didn't have that many lower numbered cards. We had maybe, what, 3,
2 or
4 through the whole game?
Yeah.
Or the infantry, where it's worth 5 coins, which is quite a lot. It's like 10% of the money that you're earning through the whole game in some instances. But we had so many other higher numbered cards.
Yeah.
Whereas in other, when depending on how the cookie crumbles, the infantry might be the highest card you play with in any given game. So
picking that right moment. And I think I love the fact that there are those, it's almost an indirect player interaction just based on how many cards people still have left. And choosing, like, I almost kept a card for the entire game from the first round all the way through, but got rid of it at the end of the second round. Those kinds of choices lead to so many more interesting gameplay situations that, like, this game just feels crunchy because of that. I know, like, it's so hard to use abstract terms like that sometimes, but this is definitely a really crunchy mind game kind of game. There are so many variables that you have to consider.
Yeah, and remember.
Yeah, like, it's so much fun because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it lends to the last day where I think for most of it we were just like, well, let's YOLO this.
we've only got 2 or 3 cards left.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah, might as well.
I've only got so many choices, and there might be a slightly better one, slightly worse one, depending on everyone else. But by that point, you've lost track of what cards other people have got for the most part. You know that everyone's just going for every doubloon they can get. And it becomes, I like that feeling of not being able to be sure what anyone's going to play. So even though you can try and plan for the best, you can't be 100% sure. I can think, Chris's best play is to do this and plan for it. But Chris might not do that.
Who knows?
You know.
And you could even follow through with that play and either have your own play stopped by someone else, or the reputation interferes and something happens in the wrong sequence, and then all of a sudden your plan that you worked hard on becomes scrabbling.
But the great thing is, even when that happens, it doesn't feel like, well, that's my entire game done.
I definitely felt like that during the first round.
Right, but then you came back and came third.
Yeah.
Or tied.
Tied second, third on reputation.
Reputation breaks, tie breaks.
Yeah.
But got right up there, So it's, I don't think that it's a game where you very early on go, oh, well, I'm done.
I'm out.
And I think part of that is the great choice. I don't know how it worked in the original game. In this game, the first voyage is 4 days, the next is 5, and then 6.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest.
So setting up for that six play game, the 6-play voyage, can net you 20 coins if you set it up right. Having that game ramp in that way, I love games that introduce you to things slowly, because in your first playthrough, it's going to be a nice way to learn the game without hurting you too much. And then by the time you get to the third voyage, you're absolutely nailing your moves. In subsequent games, it means that first voyage is setting up for that third voyage.
Yeah.
So the meta of the game shifts.
Yeah.
Games that are this simple with that many options, I'm not sure if you can hear it in my voice, I'm probably ranking this game pretty highly.
Yeah.
No, I can,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Any final thoughts before we do rank this game on our fancy, magnetic Nerds of the West ranking board?
Amazing.
Because we rank every single game, and I'm supposed to say it at the start of the video to try and entice you to hang around to the end until we rank it, but I forgot to because I love this game too much.
Forgot the hook.
We rank every single game based not on whether or not we think it's better or worse, because how are you supposed to say that apples are better than oranges and a heavy Euro is
Apples are better than oranges.
Apples are better.
Putting that out there.
A heavy Euro is better than an Ameritrash game. No, we rank games based on whether or not we would want it to hit the table. Based on any other game, based on would I want this game to hit the table more than this. So we are going to grab this board out, have a look at it.
Handy.
We haven't played too many games this year, but we're getting it up there.
I don't know if this is going to work. Chief,
Yeah,
take the board, fold the board.
Plonk them on this.
Oh,
Yep.
God. All right.
Yeah, literally not a problem. It's not that heavy.
Yeah, move it.
Oh, we gotta go. down the
There
line.
we go.
There we go.
So at the moment, we are giving things a score roughly 1 to 10, though confirmation bias or positivity bias is a thing we have to consider. We are board game reviewers. We love board games. We will only really play games that we think are worth our time. I doubt that we're going to get a game worse than a 5 out of 10 this year. But at the moment, we have Dune Imperium with the Rise of Ix solidly up there as a 9 out of 10, and Reload, I think we gave a 7 to an 8 out of 10. So we have to consider Libertalia, where we would place it in consideration of those. To me, and I feel like I've talked enough already, so I'm going to get my opinion out nice and quick. This is a really solid, really feels nice to play game that plays fairly quickly. We played this in about an hour and a half,
Yeah.
which is
Which
not,
on stream is pretty good.
I thought like 45 to 60 for this game was like you see games say 45 to 60, but they're actually 60 out of 90. This is a solidly 45 to 60 game.
I think if we sat down and played this again off camera, we could
45
blast through it in
minutes.
45 minutes.
yeah.
Now that we all know how to play, we all know the order of operation.
We could 100% smash through
Absolutely.
this with 6 players in an hour,
Yep.
which is a really nice game to have. A game that is easy to play, lots of variability, lots of like thinking, mind games, crunchy, all those words I've said in a 60-minute game. Easy
Yeah,
9 out of 10
that's a
for
sweet
me.
spot.
Like this is an absolutely sweet game, and I hear it's even better at 2 players.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
So
There is-
solid 9 out of 10
Yeah,
for me.
nice. I agree with pretty much all of that. I think that all of the additions made in this version of the game over the original edition were positive. I think they all improved the game. The fact that the art isn't my speed or isn't my preference doesn't mean I don't like it. I do think it's quite pretty. I do like the look of the game. The things are easy and clear and nice to read, which is good. Same thing, Libertalia is a game that I've had for yonks, like I've said, and I've always wished it got to the table more often than it did.
I think with this it would.
So yeah, I think that it's something that I want to see on the table more and I would love to play more of. I'd probably rank it just below Dune Imperium because Dune Imperium just tickles that, you know,
Tickles your brain a little bit nicer.
heavy strat thing a little bit more. But I love that no 2 times you play this game are going to be the same. It's practically impossible for that to happen. I haven't read the rules for the 2-player mode, but there is the Midshipman, which was an addition that wasn't in the original game as well, which is apparently good because it adds like a 3rd player
That's the 2-player.
in a
bit.
2-player game
Yep.
or something. So that's
And there's a
interesting.
solo mode. Like
There is a solo.
There is a solo mode, yeah.
Yep.
So
So
for
much.
me, I'd happily sit it at roughly a 9, just below Dune Imperium. 2 very different games.
I think for some people it's going to be above, some people it's going to be below.
Yeah.
For me, it's below for the same reasons. Sean?
Same thing. It's just, like, I'm just going to rate it just below Dune Imperium, which sits around that 9, 8, 8.5. For the same reason, Dune tickles that more strategy itch. Although I really considered putting it higher just because of how light this game is with artwork, but how crunchy it can be. It can really get into that strategy. So I was like, if I had a group of people, and a big group, because you can play up to 6, whereas Dune's only 4, would I bring this out over it? Would I prefer that? And I was warring with myself, but really, I enjoy heavies.
It
I
comes
think
down to how much time you've got. If you have 3 hours to play Dune, play Dune. If you have an hour to play this, play this.
you're right. So if I could cram it in, I would always go Dune over this. But man, like this game is high up.
I think there's the other little variable in there is who you're playing with as well. There's people that I would prefer to play
Yeah.
this game with over Dune.
Absolutely.
Yep. What do you reckon, Chris? What's your vote?
Sadly, I haven't yet played Dune Imperium, so I'm basing it just on
On a rough number.
a rough number.
Yep.
I can't say a bad word about Libertalia. Winds of Galecrest.
Wins and zings.
Very, very cool game. Obviously, I played the first one and I love that. I believe there's like some small changes to like numbering and sequencing for the cards, and obviously there are more cards with different effects, things. Very clean,
10 more cards.
clean game. And like you guys said, like you're drawing up to 18 cards over the course of a game from a 40-card deck. Almost guarantee mathematically it is strictly impossible to have the same game occur again. And even at that, you would be banking on the same players being there again, and that's
And
just,
the loot being the same.
yeah, precisely, right? So like there's enough randomness, there's enough variance to keep it fresh, and every time you play, you know the good strategies, and you know that your opponents know the good strategies, and it brings out that sort of like political undertone as well. So yeah, absolutely 9 out of 10. In fact, I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10. Like,
Wow.
Spicy.
unless there is something that I haven't remembered. Like, okay, so Tom had an issue with the reputation track, but
pretty much it.
Personally, I thought it was fairly fair. There were times when all of us were high up and low down, and you could manipulate it. So you even had control over something which was the most glaring of the deficits this game has. So yeah, I probably should
Nice.
just give it a 10 out of 10. It's very, very good.
I think that
Yeah.
fits it either. We thought, with us maybe just below Dune.
What it's going to come down to is when we re-rank this board at the end of the year, Everyone Nerds is going to rank all of the games that we played from hopefully 1 to about 40-ish, but we'll see what happens, how many games we actually get through. And the entire board will be reshuffled. So if you want to catch that stream will happen at the end of the year here on twitch.tv/Nerds of the West, but we will always put stuff up on YouTube. So thank you very much for watching. Say goodbye, everyone, because we will
Goodbye, everyone.
catch you lovely people next time.